to our number two of the Now Morning Show. Welcome back. And for you who are just joining us, good morning. It is now my exquisite pleasure to chat this morning with Miss Pearl Eintou Springer. And we're going to speak about your legacy. And we are still celebrating women all week because yesterday was International Women's Day. And we look forward to speaking to this award-winning, prolific playwright, poet.
I had a communist interview too,
yeah, of course.
Because Miss Pearl Eintou Springer is also a Hummingbird silver medalist,
Indeed, and the recipient of the 2004 Vanguard Award as well, with the National Drama. And remind me of the proper name. And that, yes, of Trinidad and Tobago, National Drama Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
Of course.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
Of course, we continue to celebrate International Women's Day all week long. And Miss Springer, you are a grandmother to this nation at this point. At this point, you've been responsible for generations of people who are involved in arts and culture, generally speaking, because we know that every single year, without fail, even in a pandemic, you were still able to bring forward the Camboulet presentation and tell your stories as you are known for doing, telling stories. How has life been for you? Having raised children, grandchildren, how do you manage all that and still contribute so much to the culture?
Well, I draw on the legacy of my mother, my spiritual mother, all the generations of great African women who have gone before me and who have managed to deal with all that life has thrown at them and still create. So I walk in very, very, very great and big footsteps, and I can only do what I have to do in my space and time. So the journey has been a very long one, a very hard one, and the thing of nurturance is the thing of women, in my spiritual cosmology, I'm Ifa Orisha, and the role of the woman is really symbolized in the Imale we call Oshun, who is full of grace, beauty, creativity, but is also the dreadest warrior you could find in defense of her children, in defense of her spirituality. So that is the road I try to walk, and it's a very hard road to walk. You have to be mother, you have to be fighter, you have to be provider, and as somebody involved in the arts, like in the days when I was going to say when I was fully involved, but I still am fully involved.
Exactly.
Still very much involved.
When my children were smaller and I had a full-time job, so it would be like getting up early, getting the children to school, and in those days, you don't have a car, so you have to get up early, walk in single file down to the bus station, fight the big men who put in the foot over children's head to get in the bus, come down, find them to all the various schools, get them to school, come back home in the evening, settle them, go to a rehearsal, come back home, sit down right, and when Saturday reach, go in the yard, because you don't have no set of money, you have mortgage to pay, so you plant your tomato, so it's everything, but it's a love, and you understand that that is your role as woman, that is your role as mother. For a lot of us, we have not had the comfort and support, the balance of the male energy with us. And I mean, that is something that we need to try and fix.
And that thing, and the thing is, of this anecdote you gave to us, and having had to go through all that for such a long time, it speaks to your resilience. And where do you draw your strength from, and where do you really get the gumption from to keep going like that and to push and to be who you are today?
Well, I get it from my spirituality, and like I say, from my ancestors. my mother, you know, Ida Mary Guerra Hartley, let me call her name. I mean, we, moi sorti Santa Cruz. I come out of Santa Cruz, so, and I remember my mother, for a while, we lived in an abandoned cocoa estate house in Honolulu. My grandfather was Coco Payol Wangera. He came from Venezuela, was one of those immigrants. And when my mother decided that she would go off on her own with her children, we went into this abandoned cocoa estate house. And what I remember of that was the beautiful nights when over the coal pot, my mother, the Santa Cruz's cocoa, would make the cocoa tea and sit down on the back step with the fireflies, the only light, and the pitch oil light and thing, and tell the most marvelous, marvelous, marvelous stories.
And I'm assuming that that's where your passion for storytelling came from.
Yes.
Now, how important is it for you to pass on that tradition of storytelling to your children, to your grandchildren, to the nation?
It is absolutely critical. When I spent a year in England in 85, 86 doing my master's, and at that time there was this big scare of sexual predators on children. More times change. And they had this big discussion about it in my daughter Attila's school. And so I went, and I remember the story my mother had told me, because there was a time when I went into this exhibition class, and my mother, the exhibition teacher, was charging $2 a month for the lessons. And the lessons used to go from after school straight, and if you didn't have the money, you couldn't go to the lessons, and therefore you're missing out. The same racket that's going on now, right? And so my mother had to get a job in the night for $2 a month, which was the same $2, right? Which was on top of the $6 she was getting as a domestic for working in the day. And so she had to leave us alone in the night. And what she did, she called us together and told us this fabulous story. I'm not here to tell stories, so I won't tell only the story. So anyway, and by the way, Ole have no local storytelling or nothing on TTT for children, and no local programming for children. I have to lash Ole hard for that.
Well, these things, well, you know, that's why people like you are here. That's why people like you are here to make the suggestions and hopefully the right ears hear it.
I'm making that for 20 years now, but anyway, Ole ain't taking me on. But I'm a storyteller, so going backward and forward. So anyway, she told this fabulous story about this mother who had to go to work. And the mother teaches children a song. And there's not to open the door until they hear this song. Well, Tony, you know, one of them going to be hard and open the door. And the evil spirit living nearby come and snatch the one and carry him and all of that. Anyway, and I say I'm not telling this story.
Nobody pointed, I assume the point of the story is to make sure that you keep safe, right? So is a
Yes, but what I'm saying is that inside of that story was the thing about being careful, even of people you know. Be always alert, that, and there's a part of the story where mothers must love all the children and treat all the children fairly, because there was one of the children who had real bobo and she didn't like the child too much, and all of that. And so that when I went to a school and they were dealing with this thing, I started to tell that story that had all these messages in it. These people were amazed, you know, at how a story. So we have lost that art of storytelling. So this is me now, lockdown and all kind of thing. I can't go anywhere. I can't have rehearsals and all of that. So, and I am a real techno peasant. I can't even manage my phone good. So when you make children and they're brighter, then you think this happens.
You get them to do the work for you.
Yes.
So, Eintou Springer, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We don't have much time, unfortunately.
Because yeah, but only do have time for old people.
Oh, you mean?
Only have time for old people.
Why would say that?
So you bring me here to tell a story and cut me off after 5 minutes. Disrespect. Total disrespect.
Well, I agree. However, the powers that be that are above me are telling me that we need to wrap up the interview now, unfortunately.
Yeah, quite literally above us.
But I do want to thank you for joining us, and I do want to thank you for all the stories that you've continuously shared with us. If we wanted to get more of your stories, where can people go to get your stories?
Well, as I was about to say before they cut me off,
well, I ain't cutting you, I'm giving
my
you the
children
chance.
Have set up a Facebook page for me.
Look at you.
I'm telling you, I don't know how to operate it, but they just come by me sensing my frustration, and every Saturday when they come to bring groceries and things for me because they don't want the old lady to go out and get sick. And so we have been taping stories, and I have a Facebook page, MSN2, and or you could go and watch all the stories. And we've been getting a little bit of support, I must say, from Republic Bank, who's helping us with the stories. So all you go and check out the stories. I was amazed when after we started recording the stories, I see 2,000-3,000 people watching. I say, what on earth is this?
As it reached that social media
affords you. I'm telling you. So go and check out the stories, and maybe somebody above will start to bring local programming on for children on the station. That's supposed to be total local and have nothing for children, you could imagine.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Pearl Eintou Springer. Please continue telling your stories. Please continue being the bright light that you are. And thank you for all the work that you have done and continue to do.
And congratulations on everything that you've done so far.
Thank you very much.
With that, we're going to take a short break and come back with much more right here on the Now Morning Show. Stay with us.